Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Zach Chat. My name's Zach Ballard. Today we're going to switch it up a little bit. I had a few requests to add UFC to the channel, so I decided for the first installment of that, we'll cover this Saturday's card on March 6th, UFC 259, Adesanya vs. Blachowicz. UFC 259 is a big card. I would argue it's the biggest card of 2021 already, and it has the potential to be the best card of the year. I mean, 3 title fights is tough to beat. You've got the men's bantamweight title, the women's featherweight title, and then you have the light heavyweight title, where you've got Israel Adesanya, the middleweight champion, stepping up, looking to become the 5th person in UFC history to become a successive champ, or the double champ as the UFC likes to call it. He'll be fighting Jan Blachowicz up there, light heavyweight, who just took the crown for the vacant title since John Jones has left for heavyweight. Says he won't be coming back down for light heavyweight. That's up in the air. I think that if Adesanya is able to capture the light heavyweight title, I could definitely see John coming back down for a super fight there, especially if at that time he's gone to win the heavyweight title. And then you're looking at another successive champion, John Jones, looking to defend 2 titles. So I think 259 has a chance to be a great card. We're going to kind of go through each fight individually, and then I'll give you my picks for the winners. The first fight on UFC 259 is essentially a number 1 contender fight for the light heavyweight division. You've got Thiago Santos taking on Alexander Rakic. Rakic comes in as a slight favorite in this one. It's almost essentially a toss-up according to Vegas. Thiago Santos is a well-known fighter in the UFC. He's been here for a long time. He's fought for the belt, losing to John Jones. But even in that fight, he suffered a knee injury pretty early on in the fight and kind of had to weather the storm. And even after that, there were still some people who had it as a split decision win for Thiago Santos. So we know what he brings to the table. He's a power hitter, punches, kicks, everything. He's looking to close a fight as early as possible. And then you have Rakic, who comes in. He's 6th fight in the UFC, or 7th fight in the UFC. He's fought 6 times. He's 5-1. His only loss coming to Volkan Ozdemir, which was a controversial split decision loss. I actually had him winning that fight, looking for him to be 6-0 in the UFC. But since that loss, he actually just got done with a very dominant unanimous decision win over former title challenger Anthony Smith. So heading into this fight, it's kind of a toss-up, like I was saying earlier. I think that Rakic will come out with the victory in this one. I just think that he's the more complete fighter. I think he'll pressure Thiago Santos up on the cage. And if he's able to withstand the power and avoid any big shots from Santos, I think he takes this as an easy, unanimous decision victory. The second fight on the card, though, I think has a chance to be easily the most entertaining fight on the card outside of Adesanya versus Blachowicz. Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. These guys are complete polar opposites into the spectrums when it comes to mixed martial arts. This is why people like watching the UFC. It's the classic styles make fights. It's a grappler, world Sambo champ versus a striker, guy who's been in Muay Thai since he was 14 years old. The difference, I think, is the levels that they bring in those respective categories. I think when you have Makhachev, is another guy from Dagestan, just like Zabit, just like Khabib, it's relentless pressure. You're being pushed, your back's against the cage the whole fight. The only way to get him off you is to make him respect your striking, which Drew Dober can do. I just think he might struggle more with the level of grappling that will be presented to him. You've got Makhachev, he's 19-1 as a pro, he's 7-1 in the UFC, whereas Drew Dober, he's been in the UFC for a long time, but he's 8-5. So we've seen people take advantage of his weaknesses a lot more than we have someone like Makhachev. So in this fight, I just see the grappling and the pressure being too much for Dober. I see him being overwhelmed by it. I wouldn't be surprised to see this one stopped, especially if it would be a 5-round fight. But seeing as how it's only a 3-round fight, I see this just being a nice unanimous win for Makhachev. The first of the 3 title fights on the card is the men's bantamweight title. It'll feature Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. This is another example of styles make fights. You've got Petr Yan, he's a volume striker, he's a boxer, he's in kickboxing, but he will just wear you out with the amount of strikes that are thrown your way. It'll just tire you out, a la the Diaz brothers, a la Max Holloway. Very brought up in that similar mold to just look to close it with striking. If not, look to just wear them down relentlessly with the amount of strikes you have. So he's got tremendous cardio as well. Fortunately for the challenger, Aljamain Sterling, he also has great cardio. But his cardio translates more into his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu and his ground game in general. So while Aljamain does bring a heavy power in his hands, it's mostly you see him getting fights to the ground, getting submissions to get his victories. Aljamain, he's interesting. He came into the UFC and he started red hot, won his first 4 fights, but then he lost 3 out of his next 5. So he kind of had that red hot start, cooled down a little bit, but since then he's really been on a tear. He's won 5 straight, 2 by submission, 3 by decision, and he's earned himself a title shot against Yan, who just won the vacant title after the retirement of Henry Cejudo against Jose Aldo in dominant fashion. It was a great fight. Yan was able to take it away by TKO in the 5th round. Kind of a classic fight. Interesting to see Aldo at that weight. I think it's just too much of a weight cut for him, especially for his cardio. But in this fight, I just think that Yan's pressure with his boxing, the volume striking, will end up being too much for Sterling. So I think Sterling could steal a couple rounds just by getting the fight to the ground with some, timely takedowns. So I've got it by split decision for Yan. I'm going to guess something like, 48, 47, 49, 46. It's not going to be unanimous, but he is going to, I think, win by split decision against Sterling. In the second title fight of the evening, you've got Amanda Nunes looking to make her second title defense of her featherweight championship. She is by far and away the greatest female mixed martial artist we've ever seen. If you look at the list of great women's mixed martial artists, she's beat all of them. You've got the Ronda Rouseys, Miesha Tates, Holly Holmes, Chris Cyborgs, Valentina Shevchenko's. She's beat all of them. All these other ones that could be considered the GOAT, she's got to win against all of them. So she does this with relentless pressure and vicious striking. I don't know how many times we have to see the clip of her knocking Ronda Rousey out on her feet, her knocking Chris Cyborg out on her feet, the head kick versus Holly Holm. She's just a vicious striker with intense power, and it just creates a huge mismatch against all these women that step into the cage with her. So in this fight, she'll be facing up against Megan Anderson, who came into the UFC as the Invicta featherweight champion. Since joining the UFC, though, it's been a mixed run. She started off with a loss to Holly Holm. She's won 3 out of her last 4 in the UFC, but this is just a division where the UFC is just looking for someone that can challenge Amanda Nunes so that she can get title defenses. She's run through the bantamweight division. She's only a few women in the featherweight division. She's already cleared that out. Now she has this Anderson come in from Invicta, who's been in the UFC for now the last couple of years. So with this one, I don't think that Anderson can take the pressure and the power that's going to come from Nunes. I see this one ending in KO, TKO, second round. And then you've got your main event of the evening. You've got the champ versus the champ. You've got Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. Adesanya told us he was going to do this. He wanted to become a legend in the sport. He's already won his first 9 fights in the UFC. 5 of his first wins came within his first 12 months of being in the UFC. He doesn't stop. He keeps going. He's got probably the most dynamic arsenal of strikes that we've seen in the UFC since someone like John or Anderson Silva. He can just hit you from anywhere, and he does a great job of creating space so that you can't hit him and you're still in his range. The problem is when you move up to a weight like light heavyweight, the margin of error gets so small. That's why John Jones' run of all those title defenses has been so impressive, because his margin of error is so small and he's still able to win. When you get up to light heavyweight, these guys can hit harder, they're bigger, they're stronger, they can take more of your strikes if you're coming up from middleweight. So it will be interesting to see how his power does translate to light heavyweight, because when you're fighting Jan Blachowicz, we know how his power works at light heavyweight. And we know how Jan Blachowicz fights against middleweights who are making their first appearance at light heavyweight, as he's 4-0 against those guys, in a few different guys who have either been middleweight champs or fought for the middleweight title, in Jacare Souza and Luke Rockhold. We saw how that one ended. Heading into this fight, I really think I'm just going to go with Israel Adesanya. I think that he is so focused. He's so driven. I think he wants that John Jones fight so badly, and he's not going to let Jan Blachowicz stand in his way. He's also going to try and become the 5th person ever to be a double champ. I think he's going to be able to accomplish that. I think the volume of his striking is going to wear out Blachowicz. I think him staying out of range, Blachowicz is going to be swinging at air a lot. I think that'll also tire him out. I see this one being the fight of the night. I see it possibly being a fight of the year contender, and I've got Israel Adesanya by TKO in the 4th round. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Zach Chat. My name is Zach Ballard. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button at the bottom of the page, and thanks for watching.